All right, all right, all right. Want to say peace and blessings to the wise OG family. It's always a blessing to be able to speak to you all, either through the recorded video content or through these live broadcasts. I really enjoy the live broadcasts because you get a chance to hear my real voice and know that there's a real person uh, behind these broadcasts, behind the character. The Wise OG is just a character I created, but there's a real man who's lived real life, had real experiences, made some real errors in judgment, done some great things, lived. And it's important people know that, so you don't think that this is just everything is made up. It's just the character that's made up. That said, I definitely want to let me just take a pause. I want to make sure this is being seen. I think yep, looks like we're good. Looks like we're good. Okay. Yeah, so a few quick announcements, family. Number one, thank you for coming out. Those of you who may be here, those of you who are gonna watch the later recorded version of this, I thank you in advance for coming out and checking it out. Try to do it at noon around people's lunchtime, so that I don't interfere with your daily schedule, so to speak. Quick announcements. I have a free PDF. It looks almost like an ebook, kind of a little bit more decorative than your typical ebook, but it's about 15 pages, 8.5 by 11, and it kind of summarizes all 26 of my rules for strong men, and that's the foundation of you might say my manhood code or my manhood framework. I don't want y'all thinking it's just I just doing a bunch of YouTube videos, just throwing stuff up randomly. There's definitely a method to it. I'm trying to get our men on track. Those who are not on track, those who are on track, I'm trying to give them a place where they can say, "Hey, this brother's talking about what I'm living, what I'm talking about," a place that they can relate to. I also realize that some of our sisters, our women, our queens, as I like to call them, are heavily invested in seeing men do well, to seeing men become disciplined and focused and intentional in their life, having plans, having goals, achieving their goals, being inspirations, if you will, to other men, to children, to the family, to the village. So those women who may be watching now or later, and I just recently saw in my analytics that 20% of our audience, of our subscriber base, is women, and I'm really pleased to see that. That lets me know that, and also many of the beautiful comments that some of you leave. It lets me know that the work here is connecting with people, that people are getting it, and that a lot of you are appreciating it, and not only appreciating it, but sharing it. It's one thing when people say, "Oh, that was nice. That was a good podcast. I like the book. I like this that you did." It's another thing when people say, "I share this with my children. I share this with my grandchildren. I share this with my significant other, if it's a woman, or a brother telling me he's sharing this with some of his boys, some of his friends, and that they're actually trying to implement it." That's really what we're aiming for here. This is not the Western Eurocentric sort of motivational stuff with a bunch of jargon. This is no, we're not. We're trying to change people's lives. The goal here is to transform the lives of men, the way that men think, the way they process and interpret their reality, the way that they respond to it, to get them more organized, to get them more confident, raise that self-esteem, and give them tools to become more empowered men that not only do great things for themselves, but have great impact on their village. To me, that's the ultimate measurement of a person. Everybody has skills and gifts. Some of us are real cute. Some of us have great physique. Some of us great vocabularies, formal education, athletic, can dance, whatever. But ultimately, what are you doing? How is your life benefiting others? Is always the question I think the Most High is asking. And I think that's what our communities need, particularly if you're black, indigenous, or a person of color. You know exactly what I mean. It's not enough for us to do well as individuals. We have communities and villages that are looking to us for leadership. So that's what it's about. Please download that free PDF. I think you'll find it very enlightening. It's goes through the 26 different rules or 25 rules, and it's pretty colorful and it's a nice looking sort of document. The link for that is in the description section of this video and most of these videos. All right. All right. Having said that, today I want to talk about or address the question, why do men need a code of conduct? Why do men need a code of conduct? This is important. I'm going to kind of define what I mean by code of conduct and all that stuff, but it's really important that we have this discussion because, there's literally billions, I think there's, or at least millions of YouTube channels. Altogether, there's billions of social media platforms. People are talking about everything from toenail fungus to dating to everything you could think of. And sometimes we get lost in so much information coming from so many different people with so many different agendas that you get lost in, well, why is this necessary? This content that this person is talking about, why is this important? Why should I care? So I always like to address that. Um, and so I guess I begin at the beginning. There's a problem that I see with many of our men today. And I think it's a problem that not many people are talking back about behind closed doors, but not saying out loud. I think that there are too many men living without a code, right? And when a man has no code, what that really means is simple. It means nothing is guiding his behavior and his thinking. That he responds and reacts to his emotions, his impulses, his appetites, other people, and whatever influence is loudest at that particular time. And family, this is the recipe for chaos and disorder. When you don't have a guiding philosophy, you don't have principles you live by. You can be pulled in any direction. And disorder always comes with a very heavy cost. Don't let people fool you. It's okay. It's okay not to have a plan. It's okay not. No, don't listen, family. We have thousands and thousands of years of recorded history we can look to and say that is a lie, right? A man without structure and order is rarely going to initiate action. They're not what we call self-motivated. He will rarely set his own goals, and if he does set them, he'll rarely accomplish them. This isn't because he's some type of Dumbo. This isn't because he doesn't have talent. Typically, it's because he's disorganized. And if he has no structure or order in his life, he likely will spend a lot of his day, when let's say he's not at work or in school or those type of things, putting out fires, reacting to what other people are doing, what other people are saying, what's going on over there, and being constantly sidetracked by various forms of nonsense, if I can be blunt and honest about it. And if you do that in a day or a few weeks out your life, maybe a month out your life, that's one thing. But over years and years and years of your life, that kind of lifestyle where you have no guiding principles produces a very predictable outcome and an undesirable outcome. And what we're talking about here is wasted potential, failure, wasted time and money, things that you like to do that never get off the ground or they're half done and not completed. And all of that creates this feeling of frustration, a sense that a feeling of unfulfillment, a certain type of restlessness, because you're constantly saying, man, I know I'm smart, I know I got talent. What's going on with me? I see other people doing A, B, and C. What's up with me? Right? Now, this is something I think a lot of my brothers overlook. And I want to make this as simple and plain as possible. An organized man will always be more effective, have more impact on people, and be more fulfilled in his personal life than a disorganized man. And I want to be clear, not sometimes, all the time, right? All the time. Even if the organized person isn't rich he isn't successful by your standards, he's successful by his own. He's fulfilled. He enjoys what he's doing. He's waking up feeling hopeful about his day. He's getting things done. He feels always energized and empowered. He's having an impact on the audience or the people he wants, right? So that's important. I'm gonna say it again. An organized man will always be more effective, have more impact, and be more personally fulfilled than a disorganized man. Not sometimes, all the time. Because organization, it's not just about, what you heard in elementary school, about being neat or clean or being disciplined in one area of your life. It's about reducing chaos in every major area of your life so that you can direct your energy to things like building, creating, solving problems, leading, right? And living your life to the fullest. A disorganized man spends most of his life constantly redeciding, reinterpreting, rediscovering who he is constantly. He wakes up and he has to negotiate or figure out his behavior, what he's going to do today. He has to rethink his priorities over and over and over. He has to reevaluate how he needs to discipline himself, things he needs to watch out for, how he needs to respond to certain situations, especially those that are awkward or contentious situations. He has to figure this out every day. And that constant having to figure these things out every day, and it's like you're constantly restarting, is expensive, family. I don't mean this in a financial way. I mean in terms of your energy, right? It drains your attention, it weakens your ability to execute plans, and it fractures your identity. Because if you think about it, you can't really build anything stable in the outside world if your inner world is chaotic, disorderly. If you keep pushing the restart button every single day, right? Now, an organized man knows these things, and therefore he does not live his life by accident. He lives his life on purpose, with intention, with structure. And because of that, you won't find him wasting too much time becoming a different person every single day. He has to keep reinventing. Why? Because he operates according to a system. Let me break that down, man, because that's important. Let's say you have two different men. One man wakes up, he has no system, no code of conduct, no ethics, no morals, no principles he lives by. He's winging it. He's making it up as he goes every day. He's deciding everything in the moment. When to eat, when to work, when to scroll, when to be on the phone, when to play games, when to rest. That he's just figuring that out as he goes every day. So his entire day is a series of emotional decisions. He may start strong in some areas of the day, but then he drifts. Then he corrects himself, and then he drifts again. So now by the end of the day, he's going to be physically, emotionally, and mentally exhausted. But it's not going to be from because he got so much done. It's going to be from the constant indecision, the wasted energy, the constantly trying to figure out things that should be systemized. It should be routine, is what I'm trying to say. Now, let's take the other man. And these are hypothetical men, obviously, to make my point. The other man wakes up, has a structure, has a system in place. So he's not asking himself, uh, what should I do first? What's more important? When do I do this? Because those questions have already been answered before his day even starts. He has a system, he has a routine. So this means, in practical terms, he has a time for exercise. He has a time when he does his work. He has a time when he studies. He has a time when he reflects. Maybe does his spiritual exercises. He has a time when he rests. So this means what? Because these things are plugged in a system every day, he doesn't have to waste 1 second figuring out when to do them. He doesn't have to keep reinventing himself and his routine every day. He's executing what he already decided because he has a system that asks all those questions and answers them for him. Now I want you to think about this. Like I said, if you are organized or very disorganized for a day or a week or a month, that's one thing. But now I want you to multiply that behavior over weeks, over months, over years, over decades, over 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years, right? One man is spending his energy consistently getting things done, being very clear on what his priorities are, making sure before he does anything peripheral or minor, he gets the main things done. So that if nothing else gets done, the main things that he determined he has to do get done. And the minor things he can do anytime, right? Because he has extra energy, he has time to do other things. He actually doesn't have to work as hard if he chooses to. Okay. Now, on the other hand, the person that has not set up a system, that doesn't have any type of routine, they just kind of living willy-nilly. On any given day, they doing whatever. They making it up as they go. And you multiply that by weeks and months and 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years. That compounds, like putting money in the bank and it gains interest over time. Well, look, if you're organized, we showed you how over time that compounds in a positive way, right? You're gonna get mad things done. You're gonna have great impact. You're gonna live your life. You're gonna discover your purpose. You're gonna live your purpose. But now let's go the opposite way. The man that doesn't have a system, right? That difference compounds negatively. And that could be your health, your financial standing, that could be relationships, that could be your reputation, that could be your self-respect, that could be whether or not you live up to your potential, you manifest what God has put into you, or you don't. Or you do, but very barely or occasionally. And this is where this is where I'm raising this question today. Why do men need a code of conduct? Because a code of conduct is not just a moral idea. It's a system. It's a structured framework that defines and shapes how you behave, how you think about things, how you see the world, how you interpret and respond to situations. And it does this. This especially comes in handy when you're under pressure, right? When there's a death in the family, when you're ill, when your money's low, when you have all these different conflicts, that's when this really comes into play. Because the person that has a system and these routines can donate more of their energy and time into the situation at hand. They don't have a million different plates they have to kind of juggle, right? We only got two arms. There's only so much juggling we can do. And if you don't have a system and a routine, you know what happens. A lot of those plates or eggs or whatever you're juggling fall and break. Having this code of conduct, this system, this framework removes the unnecessary decision making from your life so that your energy is reserved for executing ideas and getting things done, getting rest, reflecting on how your day went, what you need to do better, not constantly having to figure it out as you go every day, right? Because every time you have to decide again who you are, what you're here to do in a given moment, you're leaking what we call leaking energy. Imagine, for instance, if you start out with 100% energy, you woke up for the day, and you have this barrel, let's say that almost like a bag attached to your back. You're holding it and you're walking up a mountain. And let's say that barrel represents your energy. One person has that barrel, and the other person has a barrel, 100% energy. right? But one person has leaks in his barrel, leaks of distractions, leaks of putting minor things before the important things, leaks of having to constantly figure out everything every day, right? By the time he gets up to the top of that mountain, I can guarantee you his barrel of energy is going to be depleted because he has leaks. Whereas the person that has systems and routines in place, right? They don't have to worry about what they're doing at a given time because they have a schedule. They know what they're doing at the given time, right? Now they can always change it up, but they know what they're doing. They know who I'm going to be talking to, who I'm not talking to today, what I'm tolerating, what I'm not tolerating, where I'm going, where I'm not going. Right? This is very important. Please don't take this for granted because this has very real consequences on our lives. And I think that many of my brothers, I think sometimes you don't realize how much of your life and your potential you're losing when you don't plug up those holes of your energy, when you're leaking all over the place by, again, being distracted, not having a plan, not having a routine, no system, you're just doing things willy-nilly. You may not understand how much you're leaking and how that affects you. Now, some of you, because we have people, I've done this. We have people who will take their flaws and try to convince themselves and others that their flaws are really good things. Now wait a minute. So they'll say, "Well, no, wise OG, what you call leaking and being disorganized, I call being flexible and spontaneous." Now let's address that. Let's address that. In reality, if you're going for weeks, months, and years of your life and you can't never tell somebody, "This is what I'm doing today. This is who I'm not talking to today. This is who I'm talking to. This is what I'm talking. This is what I'm resting. This is what I'm doing work. This is what I'm doing meditation. This is what I'm doing nothing." You figuring that out every day of your life, you're leaking. You're wasting time, something that you could just set. And those are 20 less things you don't have to worry about. It's like the person who goes to work and they've washed their clothes and ironed their clothes for the whole week, or at least for the next day of work, and they know exactly what they're wearing. They've showered up, they know what they're wearing. Versus the person that's waking up the day of work and trying to figure out, "Oh my God, what am I going to wear?" You get the difference? Well, if you can see that, then you see what I'm saying. That's just clothes for work. I'm talking about your whole life. And the system, when I say a code of conduct, that would include stuff like, for instance, going to work. What am I wearing? I got that covered. I'm making sure it's clean. I'm not waking up trying to figure that out and why? Because if you're figuring it out when you wake up, when you're groggy and disoriented, chances are you're gonna find last minute, "Oh, what I want to wear is dirty," or "What I want to wear is clean, but it's wrinkly." So you gonna be at work with some, right? So now you're rushing the iron. So now you're going to be, what's the negative impact? You're going to be late. It's predictable. This is predictable, right? That's why our ancient ancestors were big on being right and exact. Very big on that. These are people who are building monumental structures. Masons, the original Masons. So being having those right angles be 90 degrees was very important. If it wasn't, that whole edifice would fall. That's how they saw things in life. If you organize, you make your life easier and you can be more useful to yourself and others. And at the end of the day, fellas, remember, that's what all of this is about at the end of the day. In case anyone's confused, this ain't about being the flyest, dopest, cutest, the smartest. This is about making yourself better, the best you can, taking the gifts and talents, personality traits the Creator gave you, investing in them, and being the best you can for yourself and others so you could be a greater impact to your village. That's what all this leads to, right? This is not the Western Eurocentric motivational stuff here, family, that's disconnected from people. I just want to be clear, right? So what I'm saying here is that unstructured living, not sometimes, not a lot of the times, all the time, will lead to wasted potential. Do you know how many brothers there are of various ages. You could be Gen Zs, you could be Gen X, millennials, whatever, who have the potential to run institutions, create institutions, write movies, write books, do all types of things. Get whatever degrees they feel are important, be these fantastic dads, whatever. And they just don't ever meet any of those goals. And it's not, and this is the key, it's not because you lack the talent or intelligence. You can have intelligence, ambition, capabilities, and you can still radically live beneath your potential if you don't stop to systematize your thinking and behavior. I want you to think about this. When you go to McDonald's and you say, I want a Big Mac, do they have to figure out, anybody have that, how much, which patty do we use, how much beef, where, how much lettuce, how do we, or you get the fish, how much tartar sauce, how long do we do the fries? No, that's all systematized. They drop the fries, they have it in a thing that has a timer. It automatically pops up when they're done. That's a system. They have the patties are pre-cut. That's a system. They tell them how much squirt to the tartar sauce or the ketchup. It's a system. But imagine if they didn't have that. Imagine if you went there's a 20 people standing in line and they're trying to figure out, well, how much of this do we put on? Where's the lettuce? Right? Think about that. Why do you think they have that systematized? For their health? They do it because they know it would be chaos and disorder. People would be in McDonald's all day waiting for hours for their order because it's willy-nilly. It's dependent on who's the smartest clerk, right? What if you don't have this? What if the people who regularly work there are out, call out? You should be able to have more people in there. They should know just what to pick up where other people left off. They have manuals that explain what to do, how much to do it. They have machines that already set it up. It's systematized. And do you think that corporations are the only entities that should be systematized? Does the nation figure out how fast you should go on the highway every day? Do they have, I don't know. No, they have a speed limit. It's posted. It's there. When you get your driver's license, do they figure it out on a case-by-case basis? You're going to get, no, everybody has the same test, the same road signs, right? Okay, so you get it. So when you go through your life this week and next week, I want you to look at all the different things and look at the systems. The post office, do they change up the postage stamps and the cost and the prices? Well, depending on what you're sending, you may need more, but it's a system. You don't have to go there and figure it out, right? Just imagine millions of people sending packages and they got to figure it out. No, it's posted. It's systematized, right? And this is the difference between our potential and our execution, right? That's the difference. So at this point, you may be asking, okay, Wise OG, I hear you. Still processing it, but I'm listening. So now you may be asking, well, okay, what does a code of conduct, the way I'm framing it for men, what does it actually do? And what I'm trying to get you to see is that it functions like an operating system for your behavior. The same way that the McDonald's person looks on the wall and sees, makes you do A, B, and C. Make sure you push the fryer all the way down. They have something to reference. They don't have to guess every day, right? It defines your default responses, things you can do automatically. So you're not starting from zero every single day in every single situation. So for example, let's give an example. If your code of conduct says, as a man, says, I do not make emotional decisions or any decisions when I'm really angry or really sad or really hungry or really sleep deprived. I don't make any major decisions if any of those conditions exist, right? Then you now know, you don't have to guess. I'm really hungry. I'm not going to make any major decisions. I'm really mad. I'm not going to make a decision. I'm really sad. I'm not going to make a decision because when those emotions are in play, my decisions will tend to be skewed, right? So you know this automatically. You don't have to think about what you should do. I'm not even going to address that right now. I'm going to cool off, whatever I got to do. And when I get in a good place, I'll look at it. That's what a code can do. If your code says, I'm going to train my body, exercise, in other words, at a certain time, and I'm going to do it regardless of if I feel like I just won $1 billion lottery or if I feel like I'm getting evicted today. I'm going to do it at this time every day. Motivation is out the window, right? It's no longer required. You have a system in place. And you know you're doing this with the understanding that if I do this every day, in 6 months, I'm going to see a, a wonderful result that makes all of this completely worth it. That's underneath all this. A system, a code of conduct doesn't mean anything if you're not convinced that participating in it, abiding by it, makes the quality of your life better. That's the key, right? If your code says, if I tell my brother I'm going to call him at this time, I'm going to call him at this time. It says if I say I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. But it also says I know sometimes things don't work out. So if I can't do something, I'm going to also say as soon as I can, I'm sorry. I knew I said I was going to do it, but I won't be able to do it for this reason. Right? This is what systems do. They create kind of almost an automatic, uh, there's a word they use for airlines. Auto flight, I think they call it, something like that. Where you kind of, the plane just goes, nobody has to steer it. They set it and it just goes. And that's how parts of our lives can be when we take the time to give thought, not just live and go through stuff, think. When I did this, how did it work out? When I did that, what was the result? What was the better outcome? And you think about it and you can start coming up with a code. This is kind of what I've done as relates to manhood. Um, Systems, like a code of conduct, they remove chaos from your life. They remove disorder from your life. They remove having to make all these tiny micro decisions that you can already have set up in your mind, in your routine. And over time, my brothers, that creates something really powerful. It's this word called consistency. And consistency is what produces results that simply having talent, simply being smart, formal education or not, or having great ideas and creativity alone cannot do. It's the consistency. It's the whole point of the tortoise and the hare. It's the whole point of that story. The hare was remarkably fast. He was probably 1 billion times faster than a slow, clotting turtle. But the hare lost because even though he had what? More talent, more ability, right? He was talking a lot of stuff and overconfident, arrogant, and he actually stopped and went to sleep during the race. Why? Because he figured, I'm so fast, this little slow turtle, he ain't gonna never win. So, right? So the turtle, who was slow as oatmeal up a hill, how did he win? He didn't stop. He never stopped. Consistency is remarkably powerful. It's why people with less intelligence and talent and creativity and networks and all types of money can outdo people with all of those things. When everybody else is stopping early and quitting for any little, they stay in the course. And listen, over one day that doesn't mean nothing. But what if you do that for a whole year? What if you're doing your exercise for a whole year? What if you change the way you eat for a whole year? What if you change the way you relate to your lady for a whole year? What if you change the way you spend your money and save and invest your money and study financial literacy and apply it for a whole year? And now let's go further. What if you do it for 5, 10, 15 years? That's what this is all about. This is what systems do, right? And it's important to say this too. Life People often say, "Oh, why did this happen to me?" or "I deserve more," or "I don't deserve this." Those are complicated statements. I won't weigh in on anybody's particular life, but I do know this: that if you want to say life, the universe, God, have the divine, however you want to say it, I strongly believe, and in my own life and observing others and listening to my elders' teachings, I believe that life, God, the creator, does not reward the man or woman who is occasionally excellent, occasionally on time, occasionally prepared, or occasionally successful. It's going to reward the people who are consistently doing this. And this means it doesn't have to be you won the Olympic medal in boxing, family. It could mean you do your little shadow boxing every day. You do your little push-ups every day. It means if you want to be a scholar, you're studying to answer a specific question every day. You're a writer, you're writing every day, right? You're organizing every day, studying how to organize, examining how other people organize, coming up with ideas to organize, meeting with people every day. And what you're going to find is over time, you're going to blow up. That's universal law. That's not an opinion. That's a fact. And it's the same. It's the same in inverted. You smoke every day, like I used to do, every day for 20, 30, 40 years, you're going to pay the price of health, some way, shape, or form. If your diet is lousy for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, you're going to pay some type of price for that. So it works either way, right? And what I'm saying is we can take that universal law that no man made up and no man can tear asunder. That's a divine law. You do something consistently every day for years, you're going to definitely see the payoff. Right? Okay. Now let's bring this back to the larger picture we're talking about. A disorganized man will always be reinventing, trying to decide, trying to figure it out every day. A man with a system or routine is refining himself. He's not reinventing. He knows what he's doing at this time of day. Somebody said, "What you doing?" "Oh, I got to do this. I can't do this right now." They know. They don't have to waste no time even thinking about it. And if you thought about every micro decision you made in a day, you'd be surprised how many micro decisions you make. You'd be very surprised at how much time that takes, right? One is constantly restarting. The other one is compounding, like interest, building. And that compounding, that building, that's where the transformation happens. Not in bursts, not once a month, not once every 3 years, not in inspiration. Consistent, structured repetition over time. I know it don't sound sexy, right? It ain't glamorous, but it works. Thomas Edison, I know you all heard this guy's name, the inventor, invented the light bulb, invented I want to say motion pictures, and the phonograph, which later became the record player. Tremendous things that he invented. Listen to his quote. Listen to this carefully. He says, "Genius, you can put success, you can put whatever you want in that's positive, is 10% inspiration and 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration." What did he mean by that? He's telling you what it is. He tried to create a light bulb, a working light bulb, about 1,000 times, I think he said. And he just couldn't figure out how to stop the bulb, kept blowing up. The heat of the electricity would get in and blow the bulb up. Now he had a brilliant black man named Lewis Latimer that invented the filament, which allowed that light, that electricity to go in the light bulb and not get too hot and blow up the bulb. So he said, when he's interviewing, this guy's interviewing him, he said, "So you worked in a light bulb and you failed all those times?" And he said, "No, I don't see that as failure. I learned 1,000 ways not to do the light bulb. And that 1,001st time, he had it. But notice, he had the inspiration to do it. That's the first part. But where most of us lack is the follow through, consistent follow through. Why? Because it's not sexy. You know, I think of this movie with Denzel, Mo Better Blues, and it's a scene that shows it's supposed to be the Denzel Washington character as a kid and his father and his mother, and in a nice brownstone in Harlem, and his friends are outside yelling up to him, "Hey, come on, man, yo, we gonna go do this and that." So it looks like a nice, summer day, and he's inside playing his trumpet, practicing, and he's saying, "Can I?" He's asking his parents, "Can I go out?" He's like, "No, not yet. You gotta finish your practice, man. You say you want to do this, you gotta commit to it, right?" Now, and he's like, "Oh." And so he says, "I can't. I gotta finish practice." They say, "Oh man," his friends tease him, and they go about their business. Well, that little boy grows up to be a phenomenal jazz trumpeter, phenomenal, right? And they're trying to show you that you gotta pay the cost to be the boss. Everybody wants to be Beyonce. They don't want to put in that Beyonce work. Want to be Jigga? You're gonna put in that Jigga work. They didn't get there by accident, right? And you don't have to be at that level. You know what I'm trying to say, family? If you're a terrible parent as a dad, you ain't in touch with your kids, they having birthdays and events, they graduating, you ain't never there, you don't call, you don't give them nothing. You could just make the decision, yo, I'm gonna start calling my kids once a week. It's better than what you're doing, not calling them at all, right? So what we're talking about here is not you got to be Superman. I'm saying the opposite. You could be a regular man, but you're doing things consistently, and that turns you into Superman. Consistency is a superpower. It's hard to do only because it seems boring to have to do the same things over and over. But if you study great people, if you study all the people you look up to in music, in sports, in acting, I can tell you, you're going to see the pattern. Those people are doing this every day in some way, shape, or form. And not a day goes by. I don't care if they maybe just be sitting on the couch and looking at films of themselves playing whatever sport, right? But they're going to do something every day that relates to this thing they say means a lot to them, this thing in which they want to be great. And I'm saying the thing we're talking about with the Real Wise OG YouTube channel is not being a better basketball player, not being the greatest dancer, not being the finest dude to the sisters, not being the dude that got the biggest pockets, being a better man. That's what we're talking about. Being a better man. And that requires that's in different areas, right? So that's why I want y'all to really understand. This is not doing stuff every now and then willy-nilly. You're going to get willy-nilly results. Come on. But if you do it consistently, you commit, and you could always adjust. Listen, there's times when I want to write, and I'm just like, oh man, I'm not, it's not flowing right now. I just don't have it, I'm just not feeling it. So instead of writing, if I commit to doing it, I'm going to write a page a day, I might write a paragraph, but I write something. If I'm saying I'm going to study spirituality, I'm going to look at this, I may not have it to watch the whole 2-hour video or read this book that's not the most exciting book, right? So I may say, man, I can't do it. I'm going to do, instead of the 20 or 30 pages I normally do, I'm going to do 5. But I do something. I don't let it go by and do nothing. If it's exercise, last night I was like, oh, I can't do, I'm going to do something for my triceps. And I'm still trying to figure out the best way to do it without weights. I couldn't figure it out. I was tired. I didn't do it. I did a few, but I did more of my arm raises. So my point is, you don't have to go OD and hurt yourself, my brothers. You do a little bit every day. Remember the tortoise and the hare. Remember that story. Whenever you like, oh man, I'm tired, just remember that. The Bible says it this way: the race goes not to the swift nor the strong, but to he who perseveres until the end. Think about that. That means that there's people that weren't the fastest, the strongest, the smartest, the most creative, didn't have money, didn't have connections, didn't have no family pedigree, but they didn't stop. And everybody else had all that, and they was taking breaks and doing this and distracting. They said, "No, I ain't stopping. I'm keeping my eye on the goal." You see, it's a Kobe Bryant called it the Mamba mentality. That's what we're talking about here. That's what we're talking about. And everybody that I guarantee you look up to represents some element of what we're talking about here. This is why organized men will tend to outperform and be more personally fulfilled and happier than disorganized men in almost every measurable area of life. And they don't always have to have the most money to be the best looking. No. But the things they set out to do, they're going to do. And hence, they're going to be fulfilled. And they're going to feel like my life has meaning. And the things that get every other brothers down and stuck, and these brothers go through it and they bounce back. Because what? They feel like, hey, every day I wake up, I got something I'm waking up to and for. It makes a difference. Not about being the most talented, but they're less fragmented and they're less distracted. And here is the deep consequence that a lot of men don't see until later in life. When you do not systematize your behavior, you have no code of conduct. Your energy gets wasted in millions of unnecessary decisions, emotional reactions, which usually lead to bad choices, as we know, and constant recalibrating, constant resetting, pushing the reset button over and over and over. And this leaves very little time for you to build something meaningful. I think the creator gave us so many natural examples. You don't need to be like Einstein family. Think about pregnancy from the moment that you and that sister laid down, right? To the moment and she became pregnant, to the moment that she has the child. That doesn't happen in a week, right? That takes months. And if it goes full term, 9 months. That's almost an entire year, right? So if you took anywhere from 6 to 9 months to be developed, what does that mean for your ideas, for your skills? It's the same. It's a I don't want to say a symbol. It's symbolic that the beautiful, great things, the things we talk about, the things that move us, the lasting things take time, right? And the presumption is that we have room to make mistakes, to try to figure it out. We don't have to be perfect, but if you stay at it and you don't quit, when your boy say, man, we gonna go get these honeys, man. What you doing? Man, get out that book, bro. You telling me I'm gonna get out the book, but I have more pages to go, and then after that I can see y'all. That's all. You can still go, but you make sure you do what you got to do. Or if you don't do what you set to do, and you go, that means tomorrow you got to do a little more. But when you cheat yourself like that, you're cheating yourself in big ways. Don't cheat yourself. If you say you're gonna do it because it's for you, right? Um, So even if you have the ambition and the great ideas, what I'm saying to y'all family is it won't materialize. So this is important. And especially for those of us who are black men, Latino men, men of color, who are constantly dealing with racism and unfair decisions and people who prejudge us, don't know a damn thing about us, our education, what we know, what we've done, and just look at us in the smallest of ways. We don't have, we cannot afford to waste goo gobs of time. We just can't. Other people have the luxury. They could fart around be idle all day. They have a big trust fund. They're good. They don't have to worry about those things. They have generational wealth. They know people treat them as they are. Don't judge them by their skin color, possibly. We don't have those sort of luxuries. It means that we have to be as on point as we can be. We have to make sure that the things in our control we got on lock, if you feel what I'm saying on that, right? So discipline, you hear me talk about a lot. Leadership, making good decisions. All of this, you got to get it to a place where you have a system that facilitates that. You don't have to stop and say, how do I deal with this? How do I deal with that? Everything. You have a system and it's built in. And eventually, you're going to look back if you don't have a system, and you're going to realize you were always working on yourself, but you never actually turned the corner where you got to a place where you built something that lasted, that impacted people, that will be here after you are dead and gone in the physical realm. And that has nothing to do with you didn't have motivation. That's what the mainstream, motivational speakers say. This is a systems problem. This is, you didn't stop to say, what am I here to do? What's my gifts and talents? Boom. This is my purpose. What do I put in place to facilitate that purpose? See, that's a systems problem. That's not a motivational problem. But here's where it works. If you don't have a system and you keep doing things, it's half done, it ain't working, you get tired, you don't give thought to how to do things in a way that you're going to keep doing them, how you self-incentivize, what keeps you going, then you will lose motivation because you're not seeing success, right? And this is exactly where a code of conduct, my brothers, becomes very essential. It's not just a list of 10 commandments or you do this thing. It's a whole behavioral system that might include rules. It might have these different things, but it's a framework, a way of looking at things. It defines what you do automatically, even especially under pressure. It defines what you refuse to do, even when it's convenient. It defines how you operate when nobody is around to clap, like, cheer, big you up. This is who you are. It's part of your system, right? So when we say, this word is very popular, authenticity. What does that really mean? It means you are who you say you are, and you are being your true self. And hopefully, who you say you are and who you are good. Because you can be an authentic serial killer, right? So we need to kind of break that down more. Authenticity in and of itself is not the aim. It's this positive authenticity. We want to see it in our politicians and in religious leaders, faith leaders, in our love interests. We want to see it in our children, that they are who they are, and who they are is good, right? Good for themselves and the community. System removes this constant self-negotiation and replaces it with structure, definiteness of purpose, decisiveness, being able to know how to move quickly, not having to waste a lot of time and thought. And when a man moves and lives that way, something will change in him. You're going to see, if you have a friend and he's watching YSOG, or he's doing whatever he's doing and he's improving, you're going to see it in his life. You're going to see he's different. He's not drifting around. When I said, man, what you going to do? We think about doing this. He's telling me exactly what he's going to do. He's not saying, I don't know, man. He's telling, I'm going to the gym. Or I'm going to the library. I'm meeting up with my lady. Whatever he's doing, I'm going to see my kids. He's not constantly restarting. He's more decisive. He's clear on what he does do and what he doesn't do, and who he does and doesn't do it with. He's clear on who he's hanging with and who he's not hanging with. He starts wasting energy on all these things. He's not putting out fires. He's even clear on things I don't get involved with. So a lot of his energy is saved. Everybody's going to say, I don't get involved with that. I'm not. You ever meet people like that? Say, oh, did you? Nah, I don't. Nah. Right? Okay. He instead starts to move different. Things are getting done in a timely way. And guess now that's where the motivation comes in, because now he says, wow, I've changed how I think and how I move, and it's resulting in these positive outcomes. And there's your motivation. The motivation comes from seeing success, right? And that's really what Organization kind of comes down to your behavior, your thinking, your actions being aligned, right? Now, you can talk about organizing things. It's a similar thing, but it's the same thing. If I have a certain place, I put everything, my keys, my wallet, my watch, my whatever, right? Then when every day I get up, I don't have to look for it because I know exactly where it is. It's the same thing, just on a smaller scale. Those are decisions that I don't have to make. Where is it? I have to figure out. I know exactly where it is, and I know if it's not there, then there's only one other, two other places it could be, because I always put it there. But sometimes I may be tired and I forget, so that means it's in my pants pocket. Now all I gotta do is look at the pants I had on the other day, right? The same place, routine. This is structure. This is system, not perfection. I'm far from perfection. You're far from perfection. That's not it. Don't let people trick you to you got to be. Nobody's perfect. This is about being excellent. This is about setting up a situation where 8 times out of 10, 9 times out of 10, 7.5 times out of 10, you on point. The vast majority of the time, you organize, you know your stuff is, you know what you're going to do. And we all fall short, but that's what we're aiming for. Aligning your intentions with your behavior and your thinking. And once that alignment occurs, you're going to be more effective. You're going to have greater impact. You're going to feel more fulfilled. Ain't nothing, I don't care what nobody's saying. You know, people can get high, they can get drunk, they can have great sex, but there's few things more fulfilling than knowing that something that was in your mind that was invisible is now manifested physically. Something that was an invisible idea has happened. There are few things. I done ran some touchdowns, won a few fights here and there, did a few things I think were great. But man, when you say, this is what I'm going to do, and it comes true, when you say, let there be light, and there is light, that is one of the greatest turn-ons, if you want to put it that way, that I think a man or woman can experience, right? When this alignment occurs, we as men, we're no longer scattered. Men cannot afford to be scattered. We have too much responsibilities, expectations put on us. We just can't be everywhere doing a billion things. No, we got to be able, that may be good for other people. We got to be able to say, this is what I'm doing right now. This is the priority, and that's going to happen later. Period. And get it done. We have to be able to do that. Right? You'll be more consistent. You'll be more effective. You're going to see it. The evidence will be in the fruit. Trust me. You're going to see, oh, wow, getting more stuff done. And now I actually have more time. You're going to see you have more time to play with, right? Because you're not wasting time trying to make these decisions. They're decided in your system. You know what's priority, what's not. You get it. Now you got more time for rest. You got more time to play. You could be resting. You done did all your work early. You getting up earlier. This is part of it, right? You getting up earlier. So now you got 4 extra hours right there. May possibly, depending on how early you get up. So you're doing all this stuff. Boom. Now during the day, you could do less if that's what you choose. So you become more focused, more structured, more intentional. And you're no longer living life by accident. You're living life on purpose and with great intention. And to get now to a spiritual place, this is where most of the Eastern ancestors, ancient societies, and I'll give the Greeks a little bit of a play as well. They all say this. This is not, I didn't make this up. They all go, even the Bible you read, the Quran is all in there, family. It's all in there. It talks about being intentional, being organized. And if that didn't move you, as we get to the end, think of your own body. Your body is not this kind of bag of random things in it, liquids and whatever. It's systems, nervous system, immune system, right? All these different systems. So the esophagus plays its part, the teeth, the jaws, mouth plays its part, the stomach plays, and they all know exactly what to do. They have a job to do, and they do their job. And they are interrelated, they work together. systems. The stomach don't have to figure out every time some food comes in, what do we do? What are we going to do with this? It knows what to do with it, right? Because it's in a system, right? Okay. And this is why I'm arguing that a code of conduct, my brothers, for manhood is not an option. If you say you want to be more productive, more effective, have more time to yourself, utilize more of your potential, or whatever it is good you're saying, then what you're almost saying is, I want to systematize the parts of my life that I can. I want to have routines that work for me, right? And so it's the foundation. A code of conduct is a foundation. It turns your potential into execution. And remember, potential is what you could be and could do, right? We want you to execute. We want you. You put here that you determined that your purpose was to be this great poet, this great whatever. You have to put systems in place so that you reach that potential. So you have a mastery of the language, a mastery of figurative, particularly symbolic language, figurative language. You have all these different references. You have a sense of cadence. You've studied other poets, right? So that you can take what you got, what the Most High gave you, and you can manifest it. That's important. Family, thank you for listening, um, live or the later recorded version. And please remember to subscribe for more men's empowerment, material, information, life lessons, and advice. Also, please remember that in the description section of this live broadcast, you'll find a link. It'll say something like, download my free PDF, 25 Rules for Strong Men. This is basically all of the 26 or 25 rules that encompass my framework for the manhood code, a code of conduct, if you will, that I've been talking about today. Remember, the download link is right in the description. And with that said, family, thank you for listening. Have a blessed day, and I will see you next time. This has been the Wise OG. Peace and blessings.